My boyfriend of 3 years never once gave me flowers, but on May 20th, he picked out a bouquet of white roses for my best friend. I had bought flowers myself and went to pick him up after work, only to walk right into the scene of him handing that bouquet and a gift to Lily. I cried and demanded an explanation, but he merely gave me a glance and said indifferently, "She was just helping you. Don't go looking for trouble where there isn't any." Later, he planted roses that blanketed the entire hillside just for me. With red eyes, he begged me to take him back. I could only raise the bridal bouquet in my hands and say softly, "I'm sorry, you're too late." It rained nonstop all day on May 20th. Early in the morning, I messaged Ethan to ask if he wanted to spend the day together. It took him a really long time to reply. When he finally did, it was just one sentence: "What day?" Even through the screen, I could picture his slightly furrowed brow, the casual and slightly impatient look on his face. Even as I was crammed into the elevator with a piece of bread in my mouth, I made the effort to type a reply. 5:20 sounds like "I love you" in Chinese. It's kind of like Valentine's Day. I asked if he wanted to spend it with me. I knew he never responded well to direct confrontation, so I softened my tone and acted a little spoiled. "I just want to see you. I'm interning, and you're busy with contracts. We haven't seen each other in a week." Sure enough, Ethan replied, "All right." Pushing my luck, I added, "Can you say you love me?" As I expected, Ethan didn't respond. It was like he hadn't even seen that message. All he sent back was, "Go to work." We'd known each other for 9 years, dated for 3, and he had never once said he loved me. The only time he came close was the day I confessed. He pulled his baseball cap over my head and said, "All right. I guess if not you, I don't know who else I'd even date." I knew he was just being stubborn with his words, so I took that line and translated it in my heart into, "Ethan likes and only likes Emma." That thought made me happy the whole night. Somehow, when it came to Ethan, I always had this ability to interpret his silence in the way I wanted. Life after we started dating didn't change much. I was still the one chasing after him. He had been busy since sophomore year, building his own studio. I knew he wanted to accomplish something and show it to his father, so from beginning to end, I just quietly stayed by his side. That was also around the time I met Lily, my best friend. Her mom's company was in the same office building as Ethan's studio. I was downstairs at the cafe buying a latte when I ran into Lily arguing with her ex-boyfriend who wouldn't leave her alone. I stepped in to help her out, and from then on, we became the closest of friends during college. That night, Ethan walked Lily home with me. Her place wasn't far, one of those quiet villas in the middle of the city. On the way back, Ethan was completely silent. I teased him for ages, but he still wouldn't say a word. I started feeling a bit down. "Why are you ignoring me? Is it because I wasted your time?" "Fine then, maybe I don't want you anymore either." His reaction was intense. He suddenly turned around, strode up to me, grabbed me, and kissed me fiercely. The kiss was so hard it broke the skin on my lips, and a sharp sting followed. Ethan let go of my lips, but his hands gripped my shoulders tightly. "Don't say you don't want me. Emma, never say something like that," he said, his eyes red with emotion. I couldn't handle seeing him like that, so I leaned in and gently rubbed my face against his. "Just kidding. I'll never leave you." I meant every word when I said it. At that moment, I truly believed that I loved him so deeply, I would never walk away. Since the day I saw him covered in blood, sitting at the gates of Longmen when we were both just 14, our fates had been irreversibly tied together. Under the soft glow of the street lamp, Ethan held me for a very long time. Then suddenly, he looked at his watch and said, "The last subway has stopped running." I hesitated but managed to say, "Then let's stay out tonight." My throat was dry from nerves and it took all my strength to get the words out. In the end, Ethan brought me to a nearby hotel and, without a second thought, booked 2 separate rooms. I can't quite describe how I felt in that moment, maybe a bit disappointed, maybe a bit relieved. Ethan, Lily, and I all went to the same university. Once we found that out, we even made plans to meet up at the cafeteria. As soon as I sat down with my tray, Lily started laughing, teasing me for not eating in the cafeteria for an entire semester. Honestly, I just didn't have much of an appetite. Feeling a little awkward, I suggested, "Maybe we can eat somewhere else, like off campus." What do you think, Ethan? Before he could respond, Ethan shot me a cold glance and said, No need. It's not like you're some pampered princess. What can't you eat here? Lily just laughed it off, like she always did. Later, after Ethan had left, Lily leaned in and whispered, Emma, your boyfriend doesn't seem to have much of a temper, huh? I quickly tried to explain, he just takes time to warm up to people. Plus, things at work didn't go well today, and now he's got classes too. He's just in a bad mood. It's not about you. She raised an eyebrow. I only said one thing, and here you are explaining a whole paragraph. You sure you're okay? Then she casually slung her arm around my shoulder and stared off thoughtfully in the direction Ethan had gone. I could sense something wasn't quite right. They didn't seem to like each other. Ethan once warned me to stay away from Lily. She's a spoiled, rich girl. She's not from our world. On the other hand, Lily would casually mention things when we were out shopping arm in arm. Honestly, Emma, I don't think your boyfriend's good enough for you. He's not exactly easy to get along with. Caught in the middle, I didn't know what to do. I just tried to keep the peace. But when Ethan got mad, he wouldn't talk to me for days, not even reply to my messages. It tore me apart. I couldn't concentrate in class at all. One day, the professor called on me out of the blue. I completely froze, my mind blank. Just as the teacher was about to dock my participation grade, my phone lit up. It was a message from Ethan. Choose C. I blurted out C, and the professor's face finally softened. He let me sit down and told me to pay better attention. The moment I sat down, I started scanning the room. Then my phone lit up again. Stop looking for me. Focus on class. Where are you sitting? I quickly fired off a bunch of messages. You're finally talking to me. You're not mad anymore, right? Where are you sitting? Suddenly, I heard a low, familiar voice from behind me. You're so noisy. I whipped around and saw Ethan sitting directly behind me, the brim of his baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Just like that, my mood turned sunny again. I grinned wide, beaming with joy. He looked at me, unimpressed. You look ridiculous when you smile like that. Let's have lunch together, Ethan. Okay. He paused for a second. Just the two of us. Don't bring that spoiled princess along. Yes, Ethan and Lily really didn't get along at first. But when did that start to change? I think it was around junior year. The university arranged internships, and suddenly I was swamped. I barely had time for a date. Lily interned at her mom's company, and Ethan's studio had already hit its stride. The two of them started bumping into each other almost every day. At first, I didn't think much of it. Lily would even whisper to me, Relax, I'm keeping an eye on him for you. If he flirts with any of the girls in the studio, I'll let you know. I laughed and said, You've known him for over 2 years now. Why do you still have such a strong opinion of him? Don't worry, I added confidently. I've known him for so many years, there's no way he'd fall for anyone else but me. In early April, Ethan told me he'd landed a huge contract. But it was too big for his studio to handle alone. He needed a partner. I was eating ice cream when I asked, Do you already have someone in mind? Lahong. Lahong was Lily's mom's company, and it was way larger than Ethan's. They could have taken on the project themselves without help. Why would they collaborate? Still, I said, then go through official channels first. I'll ask Lily and see if she can help from her side. The air suddenly felt strange and quiet. Confused, I looked up. There was a flicker of something unreadable in Ethan's eyes. No need, he said. I'll talk to her myself. After lunch, we walked along the busy commercial street. It was lively, packed with people. A little kid ran up to us with a rose in hand and tried to stuff it into my arms, smiling up at Ethan. Hey, mister, buy your girlfriend a flower. Ethan didn't even glance back. He kept walking straight ahead, without buying the flower. I got surrounded by a few kids, feeling a little awkward as I lagged behind. I ended up digging through my wallet and pulling out some loose change. All right. Your big brother's just shy? I'll buy the flower for him and give it to her. The kids cheered, grabbed the money, and scattered. I trotted up to Ethan with a few roses in hand. These are for you, I said with a smile. He turned his head slightly and gave the flowers a glance. What's the point of these? They're pretty. They represent love, I replied. So what's the point? Ethan had never given me flowers. I figured it was because he thought they were useless. He didn't understand the kind of small, romantic thoughts girls kept quietly in their hearts. But when it came to giving flowers to Lily, that day after work on May 20th, I rushed over to find Ethan handing a bouquet and a gift to her. Lily took them, smiling sweetly. "Thanks, these are kind of heavy." Ethan's voice was gentle, so soft it stunned me. "No problem," he said. He had almost never spoken to me like that. Frozen in place, I stood there holding my own bouquet. The puddle at my feet reflected my disheveled hair, messed up earlier on the subway when someone accidentally yanked my ponytail while grabbing the handrail. I tried so hard to protect the red roses I brought, but in the crowded train, they'd lost a bunch of petals anyway. They looked a little beat up now. Meanwhile, the white roses Ethan gave Lily still glistened with droplets of water. Each bloom was perfect, fresh, and in full bloom. Just then, the harsh honk of an electric scooter behind me startled me. I panicked and stepped back, right into the path of a splash that soaked the entire hem of my skirt. Soaked and shaken, I looked up, only to meet the eyes of Ethan and Lily as they turned toward me. Ethan's expression didn't change at all. He just asked coolly, "Why are you off work so early?" Lily stood right beside him, holding that flawless bouquet in her arms, her smile untouched. "Oh, Emma, you're here too?" My chest tightened. Even my eyes ached. I clenched the fabric of my skirt with my free hand and took several deep breaths before I could force a smile. "You two were together?" "I wasn't working overtime today," Lily explained casually. "And when I was heading downstairs, Ethan happened to call and said he had something to give me." She held up the bouquet and the gift bag. "Since you're here, I'll head out. Ethan, looking forward to working with you." Ethan, who normally never had a friendly expression when Lily was around, actually raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Of course." After Lily drove away, I was still standing there, unmoving. Ethan walked over and glanced down at my dripping skirt. "You're soaked. Let's go home and get you changed." We'd been renting a place off campus since junior year to make it easier for Ethan to manage his studio work. I heard him, but I didn't move. His eyes dropped to the wilted roses in my arms, and after a brief pause, he said, "Let me hold those for you. Fix your skirt." He pulled a pack of tissues from his pocket and handed it to me. The roses were a mess by then, and when he took them from me, he grabbed them carelessly. Petals scattered to the ground. The tissue packet was a soft coral pink, scented with a delicate perfume. It wasn't the type Ethan usually used, but it smelled exactly like the perfume Lily had been wearing earlier. Suddenly, my hand began to tremble. I took a deep breath and asked, "Have you been spending a lot of time with Lily lately? Why did you give her flowers?" "The collaboration with La Hong, she was the one who helped make it happen. She's in charge on their side, so I just wanted to thank her." As he spoke, Ethan smiled faintly and added, "Weren't you always worried we didn't get along? Well, not anymore." I stood there in a daze, staring at him. We'd known each other for nearly 10 years. We'd been there for each other through the darkest moments of our lives. I knew his expressions and features by heart, but in that moment, he felt like a complete stranger. The first time I met Ethan, I was 14. He had just transferred schools and moved into the apartment downstairs from mine. Teenagers were always hungry, and that night, I had snuck downstairs to grab a late-night snack. He was sitting at the gate of the cage, covered in blood. There was already a dark, wet patch spreading across the ground in front of him. When he heard me approach, he turned his head and gave me a glance, his eyes dark, fierce, and yet faintly fragile, like a lone wolf cub in the forest. And just like that, I fell. The beef meat pie I had secretly snuck out to buy, I broke off a piece and held it out to him. Ethan kept his eyes lowered, as if he didn't even see it. But I didn't give up. I just kept my hand there, hovering awkwardly in the air. After a long standoff, he finally gave in and took the piece of pie. As time passed, I slowly began to learn things about Ethan's family, like how, ever since his father remarried, he'd been shifting their assets, eventually driving Ethan's mom into a breakdown before divorcing her. And because of that, every time his mom drank, she'd hit him, sometimes even pulling a knife. He talked about it all with a casual tone, even a smile tugging at his lips. It broke my heart, but I didn't know what to say. All I could do was gently place my hand on top of his head, stroking softly like you would a cat. "You have me now," I whispered. Don't be afraid anymore, I'll protect you. After we entered high school, he became even more popular. Ethan, who showed no kindness to anyone, always made time to speak to me. That made me happy, like it proved I was special to him. But even when he was with me, he always looked a little aloof and distant. Not like now, with this sharp, bright edge to his smile, as if it hinted at something about to change. I stayed quiet the entire ride home, but once he parked the car, I finally found the courage to speak. "Ethan?" I said softly. "I want a bouquet of flowers." He turned to look at me. "Oh, then take this one," he said, holding out the messy bunch of roses I had bought for myself. I didn't take them. I sniffled and looked him straight in the eyes. "I don't want those. I want you to buy me flowers." "What are you going on about now?" Ethan frowned like I was making trouble for no reason. "You already bought some. Why would I get you more?" All those tangled emotions I'd been holding in came crashing together in that moment, like a sharp blade stabbing into my chest. "Because today is 520. It's Valentine's Day. You gave Lily a bouquet of roses. Why can't you give one to me? I'm your girlfriend." The moment the words came out, tears started falling uncontrollably. "Emma, can you stop being so unreasonable?" His face darkened, his voice cold as he gave me a passing glance. "I only gave her flowers to thank her for helping out. You're blowing this way out of proportion." "Blowing it out of proportion?" I stared at him in disbelief. "You gave flowers to another woman on Valentine's Day, and I'm the one making a fuss?" "Valentine's Day?" he scoffed. "It's just some marketing stunt businesses made up. Since when did it become an actual holiday? And Lily's your best friend," he added. "Back when I didn't get along with her, you were the one upset. Now that we're on better terms, suddenly you're not happy? Aren't you being a little fake, Emma?" My chest hurt so much it was trembling. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, only sobs. My throat was full of them, like they had stolen all my words. I'd always known Ethan had a sharp tongue. Back in high school, when I was being bullied, he marched me right up to those mean girls, cussed them out until they cried, and even got physical. Then in college, during the class committee election, a guy with the same number of votes made sarcastic comments to embarrass me. Ethan grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the podium, slowly and methodically refuting every insult before saying, "Apologize to Emma." That night, when he walked me back to my dorm, I was over the moon. I looked up at him, eyes shining. "Ethan, you're really good at comebacks." His tone was just as indifferent as always. "I only did it for you. I only did it for you." I never imagined there would come a day when he'd turn his weapons on me too. I was sitting in the car, sobbing so hard I couldn't catch my breath, while Ethan stood outside like he'd completely run out of patience. He opened the car door and looked down at me. "Go home." I didn't respond, but deep down, I still hoped he would soften, that he'd coax me, explain something, anything. "If you don't want to go back," he said flatly, "then cry all you want here." Then he shut the door. That sound of the door clicking shut felt like it had sealed us into two separate worlds. Me inside, drowning in tears, and him outside, distant and indifferent. All this time we'd been together, I'd never really thrown a tantrum with Ethan. I knew what his family life was like, knew how dark and fragile his personality could be. Even a single offhand comment could unsettle him, so I'd always done my best to keep up a happy front in front of him, even when I wasn't feeling it at all. It didn't matter if he didn't say he loved me. It didn't matter if he never gave me flowers. With Ethan, my love had always been so easily satisfied. The sky turned completely dark. A sudden crack of thunder echoed across the night, and then the rain came pouring down. Amid the growing rhythm of the rain, the car door opened again. Ethan stood there holding an umbrella and crouched down beside me, gazing at me quietly. "My fault," he said. "It's raining. Let's go home." Just like that, just a little softness from him, and most of the ache in my heart faded. When I got out of the car, I instinctively looked to the right. Maybe because of the heavy rain, the flower shop at the entrance of our complex had already closed early. I still didn't get my bouquet of roses. The next day, Lily messaged me on WeChat to apologize. "Sorry, Emma, I've been swamped with the project. I completely forgot what day it was yesterday." She added, "I ordered you a huge bouquet of red roses. If Ethan won't send you flowers, I will." Sure enough, not long after, I got a call from a delivery guy telling me someone had ordered 99 roses to be sent to the front door of my office building. That evening, when I got home with the massive bouquet in my arms, I struggled to fish out my keys. Just as I reached for them, the door swung open from the inside. Through the gaps in the flowers, I saw Lily's face. I froze where I stood. "You're not working late today, Emma?" she asked cheerfully, taking the flowers from me and handing them casually to Ethan. He accepted them like it was the most natural thing in the world. Summer had clearly arrived. Lily was wearing a sleeveless sundress, and Ethan was dressed lightly too. The room behind them was thick with heat and humidity. It spilled out like a wave the moment the door opened. It took me a while to steady myself enough to ask, "Why didn't you turn on the AC?" "Seems broken," Lily said with a smile. "We couldn't get it to work." I walked over and picked up the remote on the coffee table, pressed the button a few times, no response. I bent down and pulled open a drawer to grab 2 fresh batteries. "Oh, it was just out of juice," I said. Lily's face lit up in realization. Then she playfully kicked Ethan. "You didn't even know the batteries were dead? Seriously? This is your apartment. You've gotten spoiled by Emma." I stood still, watching them quietly. My palm began to sting. I looked down and realized I'd been clutching my keys too tightly, so tightly that they'd left marks in my skin. Ethan's expression didn't change. Calmly, he explained, "There were some unfinished work matters. Lily said she wanted to talk to you, so we brought the files here." I nodded. "You two go ahead and work. I'll cook." My heart, of course, wasn't calm, but I didn't know what to say. One was my friend. The other was my boyfriend. When they couldn't stand each other, I had genuinely hoped their relationship would ease. But now that they were getting along, because of work, no less, I was the one who felt uncomfortable. Maybe Ethan was right. Maybe I was just being fake. As my thoughts drifted aimlessly, I finished preparing a few dishes and brought them to the table. Then I called Ethan and Lily over to eat. When we sat down, my eyes naturally landed on Ethan's face. I suddenly straightened up. "Is it too hot in here?" I asked, looking at him. There was a faint streak of red just above his lip. "Your mouth's bleeding. Do you want to put some ointment on it?" Ethan abruptly lifted his arm and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. A little too hard. His voice came out cold and detached. "It's fine. I'll be awake after some water." After dinner, Ethan went into the kitchen to wash the dishes. I sat on the sofa chatting with Lily for a bit, then walked her down. We stood together in the elevator, the bright white light above casting a glow on the diamond necklace resting at the base of her long neck. It sparkled, smooth and dazzling. I looked at it a little longer than usual. Something about it seemed familiar. When we walked out of the building, I casually asked, "That necklace looks familiar, doesn't it?" She touched the pendant lightly, smiled and said, "You're right. It's the one you reposted on Weibo a while ago. You said you really liked it." Ethan bought it for me as a thank you gift for introducing him to that partnership. I froze on the spot. "All right, Emma, no need to walk me any farther," she said, stepping into her heels and waving me off. "Go on home. I need to drive too." Her silhouette swayed gracefully as she disappeared into the distance. The motion sensor light in the hallway flicked off, and I stood there in the darkness, suddenly remembering something from 2 years ago. Back then, Ethan's studio had just started gaining some momentum. School was still intense, and he was busier than ever. He'd managed to carve out half a day for a date, and we ended up at the mall. I tried on a crystal necklace, not an expensive one, just a little over 1,000 yuan. But I knew money was tight for him. So I pretended I didn't like it. I pointed out all kinds of flaws in the mirror. The store clerk nearby said, "If you want something that looks better, you'll have to up your budget." Before Ethan could say anything, I quickly waved my hand. "I don't like necklaces that much anyway. Let's just go. Let's look around somewhere else." As we walked out of the mall, Ethan asked, "Did you like it?" "Not really," I replied with a grin, looping my arm around his. I looked up at him and said playfully, "The necklace I do like is super expensive. When you've made it big one day, you can buy it and propose to me with it." As exams drew closer, things at school got busier. I ended up applying to temporarily pause my internship and moved back into the dorms. But Ethan couldn't slow down. His project was at a critical point. He barely had time to reply to messages. My chat screen was full of long, one-sided texts from me, with only a few short, scattered replies from him. I never brought up the necklace. I just couldn't. I only knew that something between us was quietly shifting. The distance kept growing in ways I couldn't stop, even if I wanted to. That afternoon, after I finished my last exam, I packed my things and looked around the classroom, but Ethan was already gone. I called him. It rang several times before he finally picked up. I took a deep breath. I'm done with exams. Want to celebrate with a movie tonight? There was a pause on the other end before Ethan's calm voice replied, Not tonight. You go home first. We're about to wrap up phase 1 of the project, and there are still some details I need to handle. I have to head to the studio. I clutched my phone. Is Lily going with you? Yeah. He doesn't have his car, so I'm driving him, he said. Then the call ended. I sat there, stunned, until one of my roommates came over and gently patted my shoulder. Are you staying in the dorm tonight? No, I replied. I'm going home. By the time I got there, the sky hadn't completely darkened. From the living room window, I could see the fiery red clouds rolling over the horizon, a breathtaking sunset. I remembered when Ethan and I came to see this apartment. The sunset had looked just like this. I stood at the window for a while, watching it, and that was the moment Ethan confirmed the lease. Even though the rent was several hundred yuan higher than other places with similar conditions, he picked this one without hesitation. I used to hold on to these small details in our daily life, telling myself, even if Ethan never said he loved me, I still mattered deeply to him. But somewhere along the way, that delicate balance had been broken. And I couldn't even tell when it started. Before the last wisp of cloud disappeared from the sky, I picked up my phone and took a picture of the sunset. I sent it to Ethan, and without thinking, ended up tapping into my Moments feed. 10 minutes ago, Lily had posted a new update. Finished the last exam, treating myself to a new bag. Time to start a fun summer internship. The photo showed her standing at the LV counter, reflected in the mirror with the bag on her shoulder. But in one corner of that mirror, I saw a familiar hand, holding the bag for her. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I zoomed in again and again, just to be sure. It was Ethan's hand. The watch he was wearing was the same one I gave him for his birthday last year. I started shaking uncontrollably. My fingers trembled so badly that I had to tap the call icon several times before I could dial. When he picked up, he said, "Emma?" I bit down hard on my hand to hold it together, but after a long silence, the only thing I could manage came out with a choked sob. "Can you come home now?" There was a pause on the other end, and then he asked, "Are you crying?" I couldn't answer. I had no voice left. "Wait for me at home. I'll be there soon." When Ethan finally returned, the room was pitch dark. He reached for the switch and turned on the living room light. The sudden brightness made me squint, my eyes not yet adjusted. "What's wrong?" he asked. My voice was heavy, low, filled not just with worry, but something else deeper, tangled and hard to name. There were so many things I wanted to ask him. Like, have you been following Lily's social media this whole time? Is that how you knew which necklace to get her? The one she posted about wanting? Or, weren't you supposed to be at the office working? How did you end up shopping together? Or, these past weeks, when we've barely seen each other, have you even missed me? Or have you already stopped caring entirely? But in that moment, I couldn't get a single word out. Under the lights, Ethan's sharp, handsome face seemed to blur slightly, like it had become a double image. I couldn't quite read his expression anymore. And suddenly I remembered 3 years ago, in the second month after we started dating, I had taken Ethan to a private theater. We were watching back-to-back romantic films, but I could hardly focus. My mind was spinning, trying to find the right moment to speak. Then suddenly, he grabbed my hand, leaned in, and looked me straight in the eyes. "What are you thinking about?" I turned red, my voice barely a whisper. "I was thinking about kissing." He gave a soft laugh. "Why didn't you just say so?" And before he even finished his sentence, his lips were on mine, hot, bold, and full of hunger. Snapping back to the present, I lifted my head and looked at Ethan, asking slowly, "Are you about to leave me?" "Bookmark." "No," he answered quickly. "But you lied to me," I said. "You said you were going back to work, but you went shopping with Lily." Ethan shifted, and his expression darkened. I didn't go shopping with him. We were driving past the shopping street on the way to the office. He said his bag was broken and needed a new one, so we stopped to get one and left right after. That's it. He knelt down in front of me and wrapped his arms around me. It won't happen again, Emma, I promise. Later, Lily reached out to me. He said he'd only passed by the mall and bought the bag in a hurry, and told me not to overthink it. On the phone, his voice sounded sincere. He told me everything about your and Ethan's past, 9 years together. No one could come between that. And I won't try. We agreed that once Ethan wraps up this phase of his project, we'll go back home for a while. But not long after summer break began, my period became irregular. After a quick online consult, the doctor suggested further tests and mentioned that because they'd need to use anesthesia, someone would need to go with me. I hesitated for a while, but in the end, I asked Ethan if he was free the next day. There's a major deadline at the studio, he said. Can you reschedule? I'll go with you another day. Okay. I hesitated, then agreed, but the specialist appointment had been hard to get. In the end, I never canceled it. I hired someone online to go with me to the appointment. When we met, I realized she was a junior from my university. She was kind, holding my bag for me and waiting patiently at the entrance. Because it was a specialist appointment, the waiting area wasn't crowded. Senior, you can sit for a bit, she said. I'll go get you some water. I nodded and was just about to say thank you when my eyes drifted forward, and I froze where I stood. Just a few steps ahead, the consultation room door opened. A man and a woman walked out. Behind them, the doctor pointed toward another corridor and said, "The surgical room for the procedure is that way. Once you've paid, just head over directly." "Okay, thank you, doctor," said a voice. I opened my mouth. Though the sound came from me, it felt like it was echoing from far, far away. Ethan was supporting Lily. Ethan suddenly lifted his head and saw me. His face turned ghostly pale in an instant. The hospital corridor glowed under cold, sterile lights. The scent of disinfectant filled the air. I felt like something was choking me, tightening around my throat. The girl beside me noticed something was wrong. She quickly reached out to steady me. "Senior?" Ethan let go of Lily and hurried over with long strides. I had never seen him look this panicked before. All this time I'd been the careful one, the one who treaded lightly, who compromised and swallowed her hurt. And now I was the one asking, quietly but firmly, "Ethan, what are you doing here? Why are you going to the abortion clinic?" "Emma?" He reached out as if to touch me, but I stepped back sharply to avoid his hand. "What else could it be?" Lily said lightly, strolling up beside him. She looked at me and smiled. "Emma, I'm sorry. I tried your man before you did. He's actually not bad," she laughed. "Heat of the moment. We got carried away, forgot protection, so here we are." In that moment, 1,000 fractured images flooded my mind. Ethan handing her the bouquet of white roses on May 20th. The flower shop closed in the rain. The glimmering diamond necklace around Lily's neck. That summer evening, when I opened the door with a bouquet in my arms and found the apartment humid and stifling. Lily's silk dress rumpled, Ethan's hair messy, the blood on his lips during dinner. I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen any of it. A violent wave of nausea surged through me. I bent over and started dry heaving uncontrollably. Ethan tried to help me, but I pushed out the words from the depths of my throat, hoarse and shaking with hatred. "Don't touch me." I hadn't eaten anything since the morning for the exam, so of course, nothing came up. My vision swam, and for a moment I saw something blurry, like a memory from long ago, of Ethan sitting alone under the moonlight at the foot of our building. The girl next to me must have figured something out. She held onto me tightly and whispered, "Senior, let's go. I'll take you home." I shook my head and slowly stood up straight. Something surged from deep inside me, then scattered like sea foam, vanishing without a trace. Tears streamed down my face, but my voice remained calm as I spoke to Ethan. "We've known each other for 9 years. I always hoped I could make you a little happier so you wouldn't think the world had nothing good to offer, even if your parents didn't love you. I would. I was afraid of upsetting you, so when I had problems, I didn't tell you. I just figured it out on my own. You never bought me flowers, maybe because you didn't understand romance, but I didn't mind. I thought, it's okay, I'll buy them and give them to you. But it turns out, you understood everything all along. Ethan stood there, pale as a sheet. He didn't say a word, just stared at me in silence. And in that moment, it was like that fragile, beautiful illusion I'd built around him all these years finally peeled away. The boy I once believed carried both darkness and light. Without the filter of love, he was just an ordinary man. We had walked together through so many years, through what I thought were the most cherished moments of life. I had believed, foolishly, that we would stay bound together for the rest of our lives. But now, I'm leaving you. I don't want you anymore. As the final word left my lips, I turned around and slowly walked toward the elevator. Ethan didn't come after me. In fact, since the moment he called out my name, Emma, with that hopeless voice, he hadn't said another word. But just as I was leaving, I heard him behind me, speaking softly. You said you'd never leave me. I paused. Then I turned back and gave a faint smile. And what right do you have to say that? The me who said I'd never leave you, she loved the Ethan who held me under the streetlights, who changed his top college choice just to be closer to me, who snuck out of school in high school just to buy me medicine for my cramps. But who are you now? You're the man who got Lily pregnant. I gave him a small wave. Let's never see each other again. After I got home, I packed quickly and caught the first flight back. My mom had already been urging me to come back for weeks. I had told her we'd be 2 weeks late because Ethan still had things to finish at his company. So when she came home from work and saw me curled up on the couch, she was stunned. I thought you weren't coming back for another 2 weeks? Where's Ethan? I swallowed hard, trying to keep the tremble out of my voice. We broke up. I've always had a soft personality. Outside the exam room, I forced myself not to cry, just to hold on to a shred of dignity in front of Ethan and Lily. But under my mother's worried gaze, all the strength I'd been holding on to collapsed. Over the years, my parents had watched me chase after Ethan with everything I had. They knew exactly how much I loved him. At first, they didn't approve. My dad said Ethan had a complicated background and a guarded heart, someone completely different from me. If you stay with him, my dad had warned, you'll be the one who gets hurt in the end. But I wouldn't listen. I believed that because I had walked through his darkest years with him, he would hold a special place for me. I thought I was saving him. But in the end, it was nothing more than wishful thinking. After Ethan and I started dating, he visited my home a few times. He was naturally cold and reserved, but he knew how to act with my parents, and since I had never hidden how much I loved him, they eventually gave in. As long as he treats you well, my dad said, we won't say anything. But he didn't. I never told my mom what happened between him and Lily. I just said we broke up. And knowing Ethan, prideful as he was, of course, he didn't come after me. But on the third day after I got home, I received a call from him. At first, I didn't know it was him. I had blocked him on everything after I left, so he had used a new number. I was about to hang up when I heard his hoarse voice say, "Don't hang up, I'm downstairs. You should be at the hospital taking care of Lily." I said coldly. It's your child, after all. 9 years, he said after a long pause. This is the first time I've heard you talk to me like that. Then his voice returned, clearer in the silence. To be honest, it's kind of refreshing. If you had gotten angry with me sooner, maybe I wouldn't have felt the urge to run from you. I just needed a break. I didn't understand. The Ethan on the other end of the line felt like a stranger. So it's my fault you were sneaking around with Lily behind my back? No, it's not your fault. It's been too long, he said. Emma, we've known each other too long. You were always so careful around me, so gentle. I liked you, I really did. But with someone like you, I started to feel like I couldn't say certain things. As the studio grew, as our future became clearer and more defined, the more I felt that way. I almost laughed. I really did. Until the tears started falling right alongside the smile. We dated for 3 years, and the one thing Ethan never once said, that he liked me, I finally heard only after we broke up. Only after I discovered his betrayal. All that time, I had wished so earnestly for some kind of affirmation from him. I just wanted to hear him say how he felt, instead of constantly filling in the blanks myself. He wouldn't say anything to me, but he could say it all to Lily. He refused to give me flowers, no matter how much I hinted, yet he effortlessly gave her a bouquet of white roses, on such an important day. He knew. He understood everything. He just chose not to do it for me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the tremble in my voice. To you, I was the one who clung on first. I didn't ask you to make any promises. I chased after you unconditionally, so you felt like you didn't owe me anything. That's why the crystal necklace I couldn't bear to buy for myself became the expensive diamond you gave Lily. That's why I never got my bouquet of roses, because she didn't even need to ask. That day, when I was crammed onto the subway, sweating, holding a bouquet of 99 roses, they were in that apartment. The one Ethan rented for me because I loved the sunset views. On that small sofa, they were tangled together, wave after wave. Later, when I was in the kitchen making dinner, they kissed on the couch, just a door away from me. Lily even bit his lip, leaving a wound that still bled during dinner. She was so confident I wouldn't figure it out. That photo he posted, pretending to help her buy a bag, was obviously meant for me to see. How could I be so stupid? So unbelievably stupid. There had been 1,000 little clues, small, sharp warnings I ignored on purpose. Until that day, at the OBGYN, when the truth stood in front of me, bloody and undeniable. "Emma, does what you said before still count?" Ethan suddenly asked. "You once told me, Tot, no matter what happened, you'd hold my hand and never let go." I cut him off coldly. "What right do you have to bring that up?" "If I had known it would end like this," I said, my voice low and sharp, "then back when I saw you sitting at the gate, covered in blood, I wouldn't have even looked at you twice, even if you bled out." That whole summer, every time I left the house, I saw Ethan's car parked outside. He'd be standing beside it with all kinds of flowers in his arms. Even when we made eye contact, he didn't speak. He'd just quietly offer the bouquet to me, and when I refused to take it, he'd give me a faint smile and toss it into the trash can nearby. "You don't like this one? I'll try a different kind tomorrow." Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. "It's not that I don't like flowers," I snapped. "I just don't like you." His eyes flickered, but he stayed where he was, silent, like he hadn't heard me at all. Over the years, ever since his mother passed away, I'd been the one by his side, helping him out of the shadows. He was no longer that withdrawn, silent teenager. He had grown confident, calm, composed. Aside from that one time when I jokingly said I might leave him, I had never seen him lose control. But in that moment, he seemed to revert to that 14-year-old boy again, sitting alone under the moonlight, like the whole world had abandoned him. I had approached him, tried to hold him, to save him. But none of it mattered. Yesterday, Lily came to find me. She confessed that she had only gotten close to me because she was interested in Ethan. I looked at him, then gave a faint smile. "That night you rushed back because I was crying, before you answered my call. She had already unbuttoned your shirt down to the 3rd button. Don't come looking for me again, Ethan. I'll admit, I loved you once, deeply. But now, just the thought of having kissed you makes me sick. I don't ever want to be near you again." By the end of that long summer, Ethan finally disappeared from outside my apartment. I took the time to go back and complete the medical exam I had skipped. The results came back clear, and I returned to school. Senior year barely had any classes. I threw myself into the chaos of fall recruiting, and after a hectic few weeks, I finally landed a job I was genuinely happy with. And that was when Ethan showed up again. He stood like a silent statue, stationed right outside my dorm building. Everyone in our department knew he used to be my boyfriend, so of course people started asking me about him. Eventually I went downstairs to find him. When Ethan saw me, he gave me a small, quiet smile. "Emma," he said, "are you sick?" I looked at him. "You disappeared for half a month. I thought you'd finally given up. So what are you doing now?" "I'm waiting," he said. "Maybe one day you'll change your mind. Emma," he added softly, "please don't leave me." His voice was strangely calm when he said it. That's when I felt something was wrong. I stared into his eyes and realized that under the flat, emotionless tone, a storm was brewing. Violent, overwhelming, enough to swallow me whole. I instinctively took a step back. "You're crazy." "Maybe," he said without a hint of hesitation. "But if going crazy is what it takes for you to forgive me, then I don't mind being insane. There's something terrifying about someone who appears so rational losing their grip." Ethan had completely abandoned his studio just to wait outside for me. Eventually, even Lily came to find me. "At least talk to Ethan," she said. "That studio was his entire world. He poured 3 years of his life into it, and now he's just letting it fall apart." I stared at her, expressionless. "And what does that have to do with me?" "Well, you two dated for 3 years, didn't you?" she said. I suddenly laughed. "So you knew? That Ethan and I dated for 3 years, that we had already planned our wedding, that I even told you how I was struggling to decide whether I was ready to prepare for that step. And how did you repay me? You hooked up with my boyfriend behind my back. What was it? Just the thrill of taking something that didn't belong to you?" Lily's face darkened. She looked like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. I walked downstairs and stopped in front of Ethan. He looked up at me and called my name, gently. "Emma." "Stop doing meaningless things," I said. My expression was calm, my voice was even. "You know this about me," I continued. "I might seem soft, but once I've made a decision, I won't change it. Back when everyone told me you were dangerous, I didn't listen because I liked you too much. I was willing to give up a big part of my life just to save you, and I don't regret that. But now, I've decided to leave you. And you know it, too. I'm leaving you not just because of what I saw at the hospital. You're smart. You must have sensed it long before that." That night, in the pouring rain, I was so excited to spend the holiday with you. But I saw something between you and Lily, something that wasn't right. I asked you for a bouquet of roses, and you didn't give them to me. That was when our relationship began to unravel. After that day, I never saw Ethan again. But I still heard about him. I heard that his studio lost a lot of money due to a delayed project and that he eventually sold it. The person who took over? Lily, his former project partner. He never came back to campus, not even for graduation, except to defend his final thesis. Ethan and I had known each other for 10 years. We dated for 3. And now, we had been broken up for almost a year. Our friend circles were so intertwined it was nearly absurd, but somehow I managed to avoid hearing anything else about him. No one knew where he'd gone. After graduation, I joined the company that had offered me a job. I quickly realized I was just an ordinary person with limited abilities. I couldn't change the world, and I definitely couldn't change someone else. That impulsive moment at 14 had led me to meet Ethan. I had given everything trying to save him, but in the end, I was the one nearly pulled into the abyss. The truth was, I couldn't save him. No one is born to save someone else. So that entire chapter of my life slowly faded into something like a distant dream. And in the 3rd year after graduation, I finally started my second relationship. His name was Jason Jiang. He was gentle, thoughtful, and always full of quiet surprises. Every date we went on, he had something planned, small gestures that made me smile, and he never hesitated to tell me how much he loved me. Later, when I visited his home, I found out something surprising. Jason was the older brother of the junior who had once accompanied me to the hospital for that appointment. At 26, I began planning my wedding with Jason. Everything was going smoothly until just before the ceremony, when I suddenly received a strange, unsigned letter. The return address led me far away from the city, out into the open countryside. There, in the hills, I found a vast field of blooming roses. And in the middle of that rose field stood Ethan, much thinner than before, looking at me with tired, sunlit eyes. "Now that I've given you all the roses I never did," he asked softly, "can you come back to me?" I smiled gently and shook my head. To my own surprise, I felt utterly calm. The man I once loved so deeply it hurt. Seeing him again didn't even make my heart waver. So this is where he'd been all these years, disappearing from the world, just to grow me roses. But it was too late. The Emma who once needed roses to prove she was loved by the one she chased with all her heart no longer existed. Sunlight streamed down, flooding the rose field with warmth and fragrance. I looked at the lilies in my hand, the bridal bouquet I had casually bought on the way over. "I'm sorry," I told him. "You and the roses came too late." Extra. In the 2nd year after taking over the studio, something happened to Lahong. Lily, now furious and desperate, came to find me. She glared at me and demanded, "So this was all a setup? You planned this from the beginning? You gave me the illusion of success, of trust. You knew I'd take over Ethan's studio, and that's exactly what you wanted. You planned this to get back at me. You're doing this for Emma. Aren't you? To avenge her? Her eyes were bloodshot, her voice trembling. You want me to pay for what I did to her? I said nothing, but deep down I knew she must have already tried every possible way to salvage things and failed. That's why she'd come to me. The Shu family didn't just have one child. Lily had an older sister. But it was Lily who made the mistake, so why should her sister have to carry the burden? You think doing this will make Emma grateful? Will make her feel better? Lily spat. She hates you more than anyone. If you really wanted to help her, you should have died in front of her. I stared back at her blankly. She won't thank me, and she won't hate me, because frankly, she just doesn't care anymore. Emma's like that. When she loves with everything she has. She started loving me when we were 14, and from that moment on, she never stopped chasing me. Even when I pushed her away, even when I stood back and watched her fall, she kept coming. She loved me in a way no one else ever has. Loving her was the easiest thing in the world. She never asked for gifts or promises, or even for me to always be there. On my birthday when she couldn't make it, she found a reason that made me feel better. I know your studio is just getting started, she said. It's okay. Birthdays aren't that important anyway. I was sure she would never leave me. During our 3 years of college, Emma was always by my side. And sure, there were girls who gave me love notes. I'd watch them nervously hand me letters, their cheeks red with hope, and feel nothing. Because none of them loved me the way Emma did. To me, the world only ever had her. Meeting Lily had been a coincidence, but to Emma, it wasn't. We worked in the same building. Lily had already shown interest in me. I'd seen the men who came after her, endless streams of them. To her, I was no different from any of them. But Emma, she believed in me, in my loyalty. She stood in front of me, watching as I fumbled to defend Lily, urging Emma not to hold a grudge. She said nothing. She just looked at me with those calm, steady eyes, filled with warmth, overflowing with a love that seemed endless. And in that moment, I felt nothing but emptiness. She would never yell at me, never get angry. Even if she wanted something, like a bouquet of flowers, she'd only ask once and never again. If I didn't give it, she'd just buy it herself and smile while handing it to me. That day at the jewelry counter, she noticed a necklace she liked. I started fumbling for excuses, listing flaws, pretending it wasn't good enough. But anyone could see it. She loved that necklace. She just didn't want me to spend the money. I was never short on money. After landing a few major contracts, my studio had done far better than Ethan ever imagined. But no matter how far I went, no matter how much I achieved, in his eyes, I was always that fragile 14-year-old girl, broken, lost, still needing him to protect what little dignity I had left. So I said yes to Lily. I guess I owed her that much. Without her interest in me, my studio wouldn't have secured the partnership with Lahong. When I asked her what kind of thank you gift she wanted, she squinted with a smile and said, a bouquet of white roses and a necklace. Like getting the things Emma never did meant some kind of victory for her. As the collaboration started, naturally I spent more time with her. She was nothing like Emma. Lily played with distance and heat, using every trick to keep a person hooked. That afternoon, she gave Emma a bouquet of roses. During their chat, she even found out what time Emma got off work. After their conversation ended, she turned to me with a smirk. He won't be home for another hour. You've got plenty of time to do whatever you want. She described it so vividly, it sparked something reckless. I grabbed her wrist and pushed her onto the couch. I never did that kind of thing with Emma. I'm not even sure why. Emma was always there, but sometimes felt so far away. I could never tell what she was really thinking. She always seemed happy around me, but was she, really? Lily leaned back, laughing. Hey, do you have cameras in your place? What if Emma's already watching us through the feed? Shut up, you already slept with me, don't get all high and mighty now, I snapped as I adjusted my shirt. You men, she scoffed, shaking her head. So heartless. That was when Emma came home, with a huge bouquet of roses in her arms. Maybe it was the heat, but her cheeks and ears were flushed red, and a flower petal was tangled in her hair. I held my breath for a second, but she didn't seem to notice anything. After Lily's explanation, she calmly turned on the air conditioning and went into the kitchen to cook. She shut the glass door behind her. The sound of the stove fan started humming. Lily leaned over and kissed me suddenly. I responded instinctively until I felt a sharp sting on my lip. She'd bitten me. Pulling back, she looked into my eyes and blinked teasingly. Guess what? Do you think Emma noticed? She won't. That night, Emma called me in tears. I was still at the office. Lily was draped across my lap. When she heard Emma's voice, she started laughing again, like toying with love was her favorite game. Before I left that night, I told Lily, "This ends here." But it didn't, because a few days later, she called and told me she was pregnant. Based on the timing, it had to be that day on the couch. "I made an appointment," she said. "You need to come with me, otherwise I'll let Emma take me." I didn't expect to run into Emma there, or see Lily standing so confidently beside me, completely unfazed. I started to wonder, had she planned it that way? After Emma left, I stood in the hallway for a long time, unable to move. Her eyes that once looked at me with nothing but love, now looked like they had been through an earthquake. Everything had collapsed. Everything was gone. That's when I realized, no one will love you forever, unconditionally. Not even Emma. But it was too late. It felt like my life, once so sure and steady, had suddenly veered onto a path I couldn't recognize. Everything I once thought mattered, didn't. I chased after her with flowers in my hands, tried dozens of phone numbers after she blocked me, but she rejected me, firmly, without hesitation. Just like she'd once said, she may have a soft heart, but once she makes a decision, she never looks back. Just like all those years ago when she decided to chase after me. This time she was just as firm, only now she had decided to leave me behind. The longer we were apart, the more I missed her. But I couldn't go to her anymore. I could only watch from the shadows. I saw someone new appear at her side. I watched as he gave her a bouquet of roses, and she accepted them, her face flushed, smiling brighter than I'd ever seen her. Turns out roses suit her. That was my mistake. I sold the studio, and with the money, I rented a hillside plot on the outskirts of town. I poured myself into planting roses, hills upon hills of them. I wanted to give them to her, but she didn't want them anymore. Later, I heard about Lily. Word was, the real power behind Lahong was her older sister. Lily had rushed into marriage but couldn't get pregnant. Eventually, her marriage crumbled, battered and broken. I didn't care. None of that mattered to me anymore. Because I couldn't forget Emma. Her life, from what I heard, was still brilliant, bright, exciting, full of light. And me? Just like she said, I had rotted into the dirt. That studio I once thought was everything meant nothing now. My career didn't matter anymore. I didn't care. All I wanted was her. All those looks of love I used to take for granted. Those eyes that followed me so patiently. No matter what I did, I could never get them back. I snuck a look at her wedding. It was on a crisp autumn lawn. She wore a long, flowing wedding gown. She smiled as she took the ring and bouquet from her husband's hands, and I finally understood. A love like hers, someone like her, only comes once in a lifetime. Lose her, and you lose her forever.